Welcome to the Stripped Podcast. This is your host, Allison Lassard. Let's get into it. All right, let's get right to it. I made a big mistake in my business. I mean, everything is learning, but again, we're just going to call it a mistake for the sake of getting your attention. And not in the way that you'd expect, like not necessarily a financial mistake, not a branding mistake. I built something that actually worked pretty well. It made me money, it got me clients, but it didn't actually bring me a ton of joy. And over time, it drained me. And honestly, I should have seen it coming. I felt it, I ignored it year after year. So today I want to talk about what happens when you do this, like when you build a project or you build a business that feels like work. And I know that that sounds cliche, but it's true. It's not sustainable if it feels heavy year after year, which is why so many people don't make it, or they give up, they quit on their dreams, or they don't understand that sometimes it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's just about refining and honing in and maybe making some adjustments that are going to make such a big difference. So I'm going to share with you what I'm doing instead. Okay. If you're someone who's ever felt trapped in something that's technically quote unquote successful, but it's not fully you, this episode is for you. Okay. So let's rewind a little bit. I've had a business of some form for over 12 years. And I started in body work, actually doing Reiki. And then I became a massage therapist. And then I started getting into like tarot. Then I studied astrology with a teacher. So I was doing tarot readings. I was doing astrology readings. From there, I ended up talking about conscious relationships on YouTube, twin flames, and things before they were mainstream. And that actually exploded unexpectedly. And when I started talking about the relationship stuff on YouTube and I started getting a lot of requests for one-to-one, that was kind of when I started, let's say, coaching. I had studied in New York Institute for Integrative Nutrition, so holistic health coaching. And again, I only did it because I really wanted the holistic wellness sort of background because I was very wellness focused. And for a minute, I thought I wanted to do that. Just like for a minute, I thought I wanted to be a yoga teacher, and like none of it fully felt right. It's not that I disliked it. It's like there was something off about it, right? But it gave me experience working with people. So I started basically advising and coaching people back in, let's say, 2015 online. And a lot of people came to me. At this point, I've done hundreds and hundreds. I don't even know how many, maybe even 1,000 sessions giving people intuitive guidance. So over time, I saw patterns. I understood how to help people. I could really quickly pick out the root issue. Like I could get right to the root of it really fast. Because again, it's just pattern recognition. You talk to enough people about relationships, for example, and their spiritual growth, you're going to get probably very good at finding the problem right away. So I was very good at that. And I'm also extremely psychic. So I was able to combine those two, and I had a very successful one-to-one intuitive guidance practice for many years. And let's be real, like it was also a practical way for me to make money. I wasn't miserable, I met amazing clients. I had so many great clients from all over the world. But, and here's the but, this is a big but a lot of us ignore it. There was always, like from the beginning, this undercurrent of resistance. That's like the only way that I can explain it. It's like, yes, it's working. Yes, I'm like the people are interested. That's exciting. It's fun to make money doing something that you're good at that isn't traditional. But I'll be honest, it always, no matter how good it seemed, like it always felt like work. It felt like something I had to do rather than something I couldn't wait to do. Like people often say in your business that, would you do it for free? And quickly I realized I wouldn't. Okay. Because guess what? I was also always the friend that people came to for advice. And as nice as that is, and as much as I, was flattered and happy that people trusted me and they would tell me their deepest, darkest secrets and thought that I could give them good advice. It's like that over time, it felt draining, right? So again, it didn't matter how much I charged. It just felt like work. And this is just, again, this is kind of taboo because people will be like, wow, who are you to admit that? But I'm saying it because a ton of people experience this and don't talk about it. Here's the thing I finally had to admit to myself. Just because you're good at something, again, it's like I was kind of in this counselor role. I'm not a therapist, never got licensed for that, but I worked with so many people. I read so many books. My mom was actually studied social work for a time. And I had a lot of that knowledge, but just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should build your business around it. And a lot of us go through this when we leave corporate, because I worked in luxury hospitality in New York City for companies like Ritz-Carlton. Again, super conservative. I loved that job, but it was so not me. It was me in the sense that I love luxury, but it was not me in the sense that I couldn't be my full self. I had to like hide tattoos, take out my nose ring, like you can't swear. It's very formal. So parts of it I loved and parts of it I felt like, yeah, this is inauthentic. I want to run my own business and have no rules and have no boss. And to this day, I mean, I have no regrets. I love having my own thing. And I'm a creative at heart. I'm an artist. So I need that freedom of expression. But a lot of us leave corporate and then we start our businesses and then we set ourselves up in a box, or we're doing the thing that feels more practical, a little bit more logical, even though my business is very out of the box and it's spiritual or whatever. It's always been that way and magical. I still ended up kind of putting myself in a prison, so to speak. And I was ignoring the joy, the playfulness. I'm not saying that I never had periods of that. I did, but it never felt sustainable. I always felt like I'm not going to be able to keep this up. It feels hard. And honestly, it caught up with me. Okay. And I mean, the first point that it caught up with me was during the pandemic, where I had a lot of time because YouTube had slowed down at that point, and I was changing things around and experimenting again with like vlogging and other creative outlets that weren't sessions, that felt like therapy. Right. But I just hadn't nailed the new modalities or like the new avenues. And so I did do other programs after that, and I did more coaching, and some of it was very successful actually. But again, I was like, what about joy? So the breaking point came maybe 2 years ago. And I realized, if I keep going down this road, like, where does it actually lead? Do I want, like, for example, you take your best client and you're like, I love this. Would I multiply this times 100? If the answer is no, you've got a problem. You've got to dig deeper. And I realized I kept setting up, for example, the same style offer. Again, they always felt kind of like counseling, no matter what topic I was diving into. Some more fun than others, but still. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Keep creating more offers that I don't even love selling, or like I don't fully love the experience? That's not fair to anyone, right? And so this is when I saw the deeper issue. I had built something around what was practical, but it wasn't truly me. And about, like I said, 2 to 3 years ago, I started playing with being more bold, being more provocative. I really went out there and like went full force with it, because I was definitely playing it safe, very vanilla, very like toned down, neutral, kind of like, it was very safe. And behind the scenes, I'm like extremely not safe, like meaning very provocative, dirty, dark sense of humor, like very taboo stuff. Like my DMs are wild. And I'm like, this is not coming through in my business. I haven't shown this side of myself hardly at all. And again, it's problematic, because then you're not enjoying yourself fully. And 2, you're not getting the right people. And you're also not like sharing your full gifts. So I realized like I was ignoring the thing that I've always loved the most, which is talking, sharing, creating for fun, not to teach per se all the time, and entertaining. So, and for you guys, like, think about what you loved when you were a kid, because I really sat and gave this some deep reflection. And I was like, okay, first of all, I was an only child growing up in the 80s. So I was very masterful at entertaining myself, right? I was always doing art of some sort, making art. I loved to read like funny books. I loved making people laugh. And most importantly, I had this tiny little microphone. It had like a cord, and I would plug it into my parents' old stereo system that they had set up in my room. It was one that they weren't using anymore. And I would literally record myself on cassette tapes by myself, babbling for hours alone, just talking to myself. Like, if that, hello. Okay. And in school, for example, I always got really good grades, but every report card, I would get an unsatisfactory note, and the teacher would be like, she never shuts the fuck up. Like, she talks too much. I'm getting A's, but I never stop talking. They couldn't sit me next to people. I was chatting with my neighbors. Oftentimes they'd be like, you got to go sit over there on the wall, like alone. I mean, if that doesn't scream like future podcaster shit talker, I don't know what does. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just in my business, I was forcing something logical instead of following what actually lit me up the most. And I had elements of it, right? Because I was on YouTube. So I was talking, but it was a teaching format. And then I was sharing, but again, it felt kind of like counseling. And this is why it kept feeling hard. This is why it kept feeling like work. Do you see how it's not this huge, profound thing, but it's more of like a subtle shift? So this year it really landed for me because I just was like, okay, enough is enough. It's time to really get clear about this and start to change things around. And I gave myself a break at the end of last year to just be in the silence. I don't know. I wasn't doing a whole lot marketing wise. I was just being quiet. I stripped my website to black and white. It was super bare and minimum bare bones. I was like, I just need white space right now so that whatever wants to come through will come through. And then I tried some other things. And like I said, things sold, but it wasn't, it just didn't feel right. And so I realized that my zone of genius really is real, unfiltered, raw conversations, talking, again, entertaining, which is why I'm leaning into this podcast again, truly. And I'm shifting from, let's say, quote unquote, coaching to conversation. And I'm also focused on what feels effortless. Like, to me, sitting down and recording this does not feel like work. It feels so easy. I can bang this out so fast and it's like nothing. That's not true for everyone, but for me, that feels so real, you know? And the truth is, if it's not fun, it's not going to be sustainable. Again, take it from me. I've been doing this for over a decade. And for anyone listening, this is for you. If you feel like you're stuck, again, in a business, a career, or even a relationship, right, that doesn't light you up anymore, please let this be your permission slip to actually listen to that. So, like I said, again, I work with a lot of people that were in corporate before and then started their own thing. And they've slowly but surely put themselves back into a box. And they're like, I hate it. I make money, but I don't like what I'm doing, or it's draining me, or what the fuck is the point of this? Like I'm still tired, or I'm still struggling financially because I don't actually love what I'm doing. So I don't want to take on more. Like, I had to really admit to myself deep down, I don't want what I was doing to grow. And that's why it wasn't growing exponentially, because there was a part of me that didn't want it to. And at first I didn't realize that. I just kept pushing harder. But then when I really got clear about that and was radically honest with myself, it meant pivoting, which again is kind of scary when you are dependent financially on what you do. You have to take risks. But when you're having fun, it's 100 times easier to come up with new ideas and create content and things like that. So what does this mean for you? If you're forcing something that isn't truly like the full, most unapologetic, playful version, authentic version of you, it's going to catch up with you. So if you feel, like I said, trapped in a business or a job that looks good on paper, but it feels like a chore, pay attention. If you keep ignoring what actually brings you joy because it doesn't seem, quote unquote practical, you're setting yourself up for burnout. And if you're at a crossroads, you're wondering what your next move is, you don't have to do it all alone. So part of the reason why I still am offering one-to-one, but like I said, it's much more focused and I still like it. It's just I didn't want everything to revolve around that, right? So I'm still offering clarity sessions, and this is to get people out of their heads and offer deep spiritual, no BS insight about where you actually want to go next. So, like I said, I'm keeping the elements that feel good, but like I said, I'm shifting the way that I'm doing things to conversations, period, right? Like less teaching, less counseling feeling, and more like thought leadership and hot takes and creating for the fun of it, honestly, making memes, like sharing viewpoints in a way that feels artistic instead of like, oh, let's go to school. Okay. Because that just doesn't light me up. So if you're feeling this conversation and you're like, yeah, I definitely need help with this, go book a session. The link is in the episode notes for clarity sessions. Like I said, they're 60 minutes long and there's a short little intake form. And of course, if you're loving these convos, make sure to follow the podcast or subscribe on Spotify or Apple. Share this with a friend. And I'll see you next time. Let's stop trying to force what feels like shit and start following what actually lights us up. All right. Love you guys. I will see you in the next one.